Greetings, chess fans. My name is Arturs Neiksans. I'm the leading Latvian chess grandmaster. And in this video, I will look back at the critical moments that happened in Singapore in the World Championship match between the reigning world champion Liren and the 18-year-old challenger from China, Dommaraju Gukesh. This, be warned, was a crazy game that featured unbelievable finale that you would have to go back in the history of chess to check when was the last time something of this magnitude happened. Let's check it out what happened in this game. So Gukesh was playing with the white color. By the way, the score in the match was tied 5 points each. 4 more classical games to be played, and maybe, who knows, there's going to be a tiebreak. So Gukesh once again played a knight of 3, d5 and c4. You might remember a couple of games earlier. He played g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, not bishop h6, and he came up with an amazing new concept. This time he was pretty sure that most likely Team Ding, he has prepared something. He played c4. Now, this is an interesting choice by Gukesh, but what was the next move that really surprised me? So here, Ding played d4. Now, I have nothing against this move. I do believe this is the strongest move. But again, I think it goes against the strategy that Ding has chosen for this match. So he has decided essentially to play solid, not to take any risks. Why would you play d4? Because d4 is a very, very principled choice. And here black is actually simple choices like e6, knight f6, bishop e7, shook castle, build a brick wall, which would actually be in the spirit of how Ding has been playing. But okay, he decided to play d4. Fine, there you go. b4, huge move. With this move here, what white wants to do, white wants to play bishop b2, hit a pawn on d4. Let's say black is really careless and black plays something like knight c6 to support a pawn with e5. Suddenly white can play b5, knight a5, and think about moves like d3. And suddenly this pawn is quite difficult to defend because bishop b2 is incoming and the knight on a5 is out of the game. So naturally there's a huge theory here. So black can play a couple of choices here. Some time ago the main move here was f6. So this was the old main line. f6. I think it was like e3, e5, c5, a5, bishop c4, 8 takes on b4, knight e5, whatever. You know, maybe not like this. I'm just slightly mixing up something, but it's really crazy. Also, there's the other continuation, which is bishop g4, which is considered to be the more cautious choice, and white typically plays something like queen b3 to recapture an f3 with the queen. But here, c5 was played by Ding, which feels pretty normal because that will be the typical approach against the Benko Gambit. And essentially Gukesh is playing the Benko Gambit with colors reversed. I mean, if I would start from the beginning, look at this. d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, b5. There you go. This is what Gukesh is doing, only with an extra tempo. So he plays exactly the same, b4, c5, and now Ding's idea is to meet b takes on c5 with knight c6. He will play e5 next so that the knight now cannot be bothered by the pawn on b5 and then capture the pawn on c5 with a bishop. Or even knight f6, knight e7, knight c5. Looks great. So what happened here is yet another surprise. So Gukesh plays the Blumenfeld Gambit, or maybe with colors reversed. The point here is that after d takes on e3, f takes on e3, c takes on b4, white has a very good compensation here. White plays something like d4, black plays knight f6, white plays bishop d3, shook castle, maybe a3, bishop b2, e4. Real easy game. So what happened here is obviously Ding decided not to accept it, but he was surprised big time. So he played knight f6. Look at this. He spent 40 minutes for knight f6. I just find it unbelievable. 40 minutes for knight f6. So after knight f6, here Gukesh blitzed out a3, which is some very deep home prep. And now again, the world champion was in the tank. I mean, what do you do? a3 is like a weird move because white already said he wants to sacrifice the pawn on b4. Now what? What you're supposed to do? So Gukesh's idea after b4 was to take on d4 and play bishop b2, but to be honest, I quite don't understand why all of this is necessary. Why can't you like take it immediately here? Must be some very concrete problems like e takes, bishop b2. This looks perfectly reasonable, and apparently here black can play e5. Yeah, which is the big idea, and after knight takes on e5, bishop takes on b4, the pawn on b4 is under attack, and somehow black is okay, because after queen a4, knight fd7, if you take on d7, there's some free check on e7, defending the bishop, hitting the king, and after knight e5 here, knight c6, black is almost winning. You know, this is really crazy stuff. And this a3 is like an alien move. You know, that is such a deep move, which is really difficult to understand. And Ding was really confused, and he didn't know what to do. And again, he spent here like 20 minutes. He was probably thinking about moves like knight c6. So here Gukesh would play b5, knight a5. Now suddenly white can continue with moves like probably take it, and bishop b2. And how do you defend the pawn here? Can you play a gambit? Maybe you can. So it was a tough choice for the world champion. And after 20 minutes, he decided to play bishop g4, which maybe is not really a bad choice because he gets rid of the pressure here. If white at some point plays b takes on c5, he goes back to the idea to play knight c6 and e5. It kind of makes sense. So Gukesh again continued very quickly, e takes, h3. Now we have some sort of a modern Benoni position with colors reversed, where white has already achieved quite a bit, meaning playing at the pawn majority at the queen side. Bishop f3 probably necessary because bishop h5 is some g4, bishop g2, and knight e5 ideas, something a la Scandinavian defense. So you have to take it, queen f3 and queen c7. So what you need to know after the opening phase, just look at the clock. So Ding had 51 minutes versus 1 hour and 59. Like 1 hour less. Essentially for the first 5 moves, the world champion had spent 1 hour. 1 hour. For the first time moves. And I think the last time something like this happened, you would have to go back to really ancient chess history. David Bronstein, he was famous for making a long think for first moves, like once he spent 50 minutes for the first move to be made, but wow, this is something new. Either way, here, Gukesh was already slightly out of the prep apparently, and he played a shocking move. He played d3, which maybe is not really a bad move, again, because it seems that he wants to play like g3, bishop g2, short castle, use this long diagonal. I was even thinking, could it be like d3 and g4, g5, bishop g2 is a possibility. But again, there's a concrete problem. How do you deal with a5? Because suddenly black is just threatening to take on b4 and you have some problems here. And if you play like bishop b2, there's different kind of problems. So black is still pressing. For example, takes, and probably takes and e5. And how do you defend the pawn here? Like c5, black could even play bishop takes on c5, b takes on c5, and queen f5 check. Big problems incoming. So what do you do here? And that's why here Gukesh played like b5, he blitzed it out, and after knight bd7, he was like, what just happened? I mean, there's like a major hole on c5. The question is, why? Why would you do that? Why would you weaken the c5 square for no good reason? And here Gukesh spent an hour, a full hour to play g3. It's just mind-boggling. So I just couldn't believe what was happening. So Ding spent like 1 hour on the first 5 moves, for the first 5 moves, and then Gukesh rushed very quickly. He played this crazy idea b5 for, I don't know, I can't even explain it. And then he spent like 1 hour to play g3 because he was so appalled what he just did. So the question is what he should have done. Let's go back here. So I think it makes sense with the pawn on a3 to play c5 because the pawn on b4 is supported. Now there's some very tricky lines like black plays a5, you play bishop b5 check, and after knight c6 there's all kinds of tricks. Like I really like this idea of bishop a4. So the threat is that after a takes, you're threatening to take on c6, the rook on a8 is hanging, but the more hidden threat is to play b5, b6 on the queen. So black would have to like come up with really great imagination, like 97 here, stopping the pin. And here I'm sure that Gukesh has many interesting ideas like castles here. Again, a takes probably is impossible. There's all kinds of tricks, and here Ding would have to be very careful, like e6 and bishop b2 and hit the pawn on d4, etc. Could have been completely different game. So this c5 and bishop b5 was just asking to be played. Yeah, this was a crazy mistake. So very big positional mistake by Gukesh. And now he realized that, oh, actually, after such a great opening, I'm in trouble. So he played his g3, not g4. And Ding put the knight on c5, bishop g2. And here it was world champ who became ambitious. I mean, he didn't even play like e6 and bishop e7 and castle short. I mean, no, he said, I'm gonna, beat you right here on the spot. So the big idea is to play knight e5 or collect the pawn on d3 just like that. So what Gukesh could do, he could castle short, knight e5 is incoming. Here, Gukesh already is coming up with only moves, queen f4. The pawn on d3 is incredibly weak, but again, you can't really take it immediately. Maybe you can, I don't know. Because after knight x on d3, queen d4 is the move, but also queen e4 is not so clear. The pawn on b7 is under attack, the blocking is quite weak, and white just wants to continue development, like knight e2, maybe f4, hit the knight on d3 is hanging, so it's risky. So Ding's choice was perfectly understandable. He played rook d8. Now he's threatening to win the pawn. And the pawn on d4 is protected. So Gukesh played rook d1 and here. So this is the situation. Gukesh is already behind on the clock. I mean, like 10 moves ago, he had extra on the clock, better position. His opponent was clearly psychologically not in the shape, and 10 moves later, suddenly it's the world champion who has the dominating position with black with an excellent outpost on c5. So what do you do here? I mean, normally what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to play e6, bishop d6, castle short, and then figure out how to dominate the dark squares. Well, for some reason, Ding played g6. I don't understand this move. I think that this bishop belongs on this long diagonal. So g6, he felt that the bishop belongs here for whatever reason. I can't really explain why. I thought it's super obvious the bishop belonged here. And now Gukesh got to fix his problems. He played a4, which opens up the h3 square for either the knight or the bishop, followed by h5, again, slightly greedy move. So here Ding was really hoping to play bishop h6 and cause some problems for the queen. As you notice, it doesn't really have anywhere to go. And here, Gukesh started to take over the game. He played nice move b6. So the point here, obviously you cannot take on b6, the knight on e5 is hanging. So Ding played queen at d6. I don't know, maybe queen b8 was a bit better. Bishop a3 pins the knight. Bishop h6 makes perfect sense. Bishop takes, queen e4. Now the pawn on b7 is under attack. Here Ding played knight c6 and Gukesh is completely out of trouble. And if somebody's calling the shots here, it's the young Indian. So what happened here? Ding played rook d7, which, again, I don't understand this move, so why can't you just castle short and then figure out what to do with the pawn here? Like castle short, put the knight on b4, like let's put it this way, like short castle here. White could play like something like knight b5 probably, and then you can at some point maybe just capture the pawn on b6. So I don't really see any problems with black's position here. So again, rook d7 is a weird move. Here Gukesh played knight c2. Now Ding collected the pawn on b6, rook b1, rook b5. Finally, short castle happened here, and knight a1. I like this move, even though the engine says that here instead of knight a1, the better move was rook d to b1, applying some pressure here. But no matter what, white has already huge compensation, because white's pieces are dominating blacks. The bishop on h6 is shooting in the dark. Yeah, essentially nothing. So knight a1 was played, and this is the critical moment of the game. So 40 minutes for both players. This is move 25. White's threat is to play knight b3, knight c5. What do you do here if you are black? Now, black here has several choices. Yeah, so black here has choice, for example, engine really likes this move, rook d6, which I suppose gotta make sense. You walk away from the attack. And if white plays something like knight b3 here, whatever. I mean, you can just keep bothering the queen if you want. Here, maybe put the other rook on b8 and anticipate knight c5 and everything is sort of okay. Also, another move here for black would be like rook c8, knight b3 here, and again, you just play like rook d6, and if white plays knight c5 here, black just plays b6, and everything is holding on, you protect everything, and everything is cool. So what the world champion did, he played rook b8, which, I mean, kind of makes sense. He protects the pawn, but again, you see he spent like 7 minutes out of the 14 to defend the pawn. Now, knight b3 was played by Gukesh very quickly to increase the pressure with knight c5. e6? Yeah, again, I'm not really sure what this move does. Like, it protects some squares, but again, the question is, what do you do after knight c5 here, which was played by Gukesh? Rook e7. Now comes rook b1. And here just something unbelievable happens. So, this is the situation on the clock. 30 minutes for Gukesh, mode 28. Dink has 7 minutes and 41 seconds. So he is worse. No problem. Yeah, he is definitely worse. There's some pressure on the pawn on b7, and all you need to do, just play knight b4, which kind of makes sense. I mean, you want to block the rooks here, and then if white plays something like knight x on b7, yeah, maybe the pawn on a5 is dropping, so you play something like, I don't really know, maybe bishop f8, and white just collects a pawn on a5 somehow, like knight x on e5. Oh, I'm blundering a piece here on b5 and a5, so white couldn't even do that. But yeah, maybe like c5, and white is increasing the pressure, and black is holding on. It's not great, but you're holding on. What happens next is just shocking. So Ding plays queen c8. And here Gukesh is just staring at the position like for 10 seconds. Queen c6. 10 seconds later, Ding Liren resigns. So this probably was the worst blunder in the modern World Chess Championship history. I can't recall something like this. I mean, I would have to go back. Maybe the very famous Chigorin's blunder made in 2 moves with an extra piece. That was maybe even worse against Stanitz, was it? Yeah, a long time ago. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable blunder. So the point here is b takes on c6, rook b8. White is just up a piece, queen c6, bishop takes on c6. Again, rook on b8 is hanging. It's very unfortunate for Ding, because this blunder was not yet possible here. Because queen takes on c6 is not yet a threat, technically, because black can play b takes on c6, rook b8, and something like king g7. He's sort of fine. And it's very difficult to spot blunders that are not there before. But I mean, still, at this level, you gotta see captures, checks, threats. Queen c6. It's a very easy move. It's shocking. It's really shocking. So what did it mean? It means that Gukesh wins and takes the lead in the match with 6 points against 5 and becomes a clear favorite to win the match at the most unexpected moment. And I think he will have very good chances to become the youngest world champion ever, at least undisputed world champion. And I wouldn't really write down Ding's chances just yet, because there's still 3 more games, but the way he has been playing this entire match, it's going to be very hard. So I won't really go as far as start congratulating Gukesh that he has done it, the match is over. But I mean, this game overall was shocking, really shocking. I can't really find any other words. So the viewers, write your thoughts. What do you think? What did you feel when you saw this? Did you feel like it was deserved, like Gukesh was deserving the victory up to this point, that Ding's play led to this and this was only to be expected? Or you were hoping that the world champion is going to prevail until the tie breaks? Or you believe that he is still going to strike back tomorrow in game 12? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you liked my recap, please press like and subscribe to my channel, as I will be making more daily recaps. Thank you for watching. I'm signing off.